Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Regarding Islamic worship rituals, the misconception I'd like to bring into discussion today relates to the congregational prayer which is held in mosques. Now, there are two categories of narratives that have been reported and handed down to us in this regard. Both of them are apparently entirely opposite to each other. One category of narrative says that it is absolutely essential to come to the mosque to attend the congregational prayer. Thus, for example, we find the Prophet saying, this is recorded by Imam Muslim in his Jami Sahih, that he has said that he would like to burn the houses of those people who do not come to the mosque to attend the congregational prayer. Similarly, a blind person once asked him that if he could be given this concession of not coming to the mosque. At first, he was granted this concession by the Prophet, but later on, the Prophet asked him that, do you hear the azan, the voice of the azan? And that person said, yes. So the Prophet said that in that case, you have to come to the mosque. Similarly, we find a narrative which says that people who are sick, they must, if they have to limp to the mosque, then they must come by the help of other people. And so this is one category of narrative. So another category of narrative, and this category, of course, is the one which says that it is essential to come to the mosque to attend the congregational prayer. The other category of narratives is entirely different. It says that it is very rewarding for people to come to the mosque and say the prayer there. So, thus, for example, we have this famous narrative also recorded by Imam Muslim in his Jami Sahih, which says that if a person prays in the mosque, then this will be 27 times more rewarding to him than the prayer that he offers in his own house. Similarly, we have a number of narratives which mention the reward of praying the Isha prayer or the Fajr prayer in the mosque. So this is the second category of narrative. Now, the question is, the Prophet Muhammad, of course, would not have said something which is entirely contradictory to each other. So these two categories, there has to be some harmony between what he has to say. There has to be some correspondence between these two types of categories. Now, it is essential whenever we have to resolve such differences in narratives that we must take recourse to the Quran and find out what the actual situation is. So, if we study the Quran, we will find out that the Prophet Muhammad, when he was conducting his mission, his preaching mission in his own times, there was a phase which came in his own mission in which the disbelievers and the hypocrites had to be separated out and filtered out and sifted out from the believers, so that the final judgment of God could be announced and implemented on the hypocrites and the disbelievers, and the true believers needed to be sifted out from this whole lot, because we know that there were hypocrites who had posed themselves to be Muslims. So several directives in this regard were given, so that this distinction could be made very clearly, and one could clearly see who the believers are and who the disbelievers and the hypocrites are, so that this distinction could separate them, isolate them from each other, and so that the final pronouncement of the punishment of God is also very easily implemented. So this is a phase which comes in the life of every messenger of God, every Rasul of God, and this is a law which is specifically meant for the messengers of God. So the first category of narratives in which we find such strictness from the Prophet, in which he has said such things as to burn the houses of those people who do not come to the mosque, actually belong to this phase of the Prophet's mission, in which the believers and the disbelievers and hypocrites, they were being separated from each other. So this was the directive in which it could be easily gauged who is a believer and who is not a believer, and who is a hypocrite or a disbeliever. So coming to the mosque was made a very strong condition, because this would of course be very, very instrumental in finding out who the true believers are. So it should be understood that this category of narratives which pronounce such sternness and strictness in coming to the mosque relates to this particular phase of the Prophet's mission. And since this whole prophetic mission is specific to the Prophet Muhammad as well as to other messengers of God, so therefore this category of narratives only relates to the presence of the messenger. In the presence of the messenger, in which this separation and isolation had it needed to be done, it was in this category, it was in this phase that it was regarded as obligatory that people should come to the mosque at all costs. However, with the departure of the messengers of God, with the termination of the institution of prophethood, of course, this is something which since it was specific to them, it no longer holds. Today, Muslims, if they come to the mosque to offer the congregational prayer, it is not obligatory upon them, it is not mandatory upon them to do so. But if they do so, it will be highly rewarding for them. And as a Muslim, we must also think that we have to find ways and means to come closer to God. Of course, when we know that we come to the mosque and we offer the congregational prayer in the mosque, then this is something which is really spiritually advancing, it's a spiritually fulfilling experience. We find that our prayers are more attentive towards God. We find ourselves to be closer to God in the environment of a mosque. So all of us should make a very positive, a very concerted effort to come to the mosque for on all occasions, in fact. However, if we have some other business or some involvement that which stops us from coming to the mosque, we should know this fact that coming to the mosque is not obligatory. It's very rewarding, but we should try as hard as we can to come to the mosque. And at the same time, as I said, it should be in our minds that if we do not come to the mosque, we will not be penalized. It is not that we're going to be penalized if we don't come to the mosque, because coming to the mosque to offer the congregational prayer is a very rewarding act. It is not obligatory. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.